Hello everyone. Today we shall talk about the um, Indian electricity rules. So we shall check on that. The Indian electricity rules, i.e., rules, under general principles of electrical estimation. Um, for that, let's check on this. So there are totally different rules which were set in 1956. So it under the Act 1910, it was dealing with the provisions relating to the supply and use of electrical energy. So there was an advisory board which was set, constituted to exercise the power under Section 37. So if there is a board, it will have 5 members, one which is nominated by the government, one by the railway board, one by the mines, and one from ISI. So this CEB, they have the uh, control or the regulatory board to generation, transmission and supply of and use of energy. So the Central Electricity Board CEB will frame the Indian electricity rules. According to that, this IE rules is framed according to the general safety precautionary measures. This was amended. It was first framed in 1922, but amended in 1937 and 1956. See, the main objective of the IE rule is to regulate the relation between the electricity supplier and the consumer, and to make the generation, be it transmission or the distribution of the use of electricity as safe as possible. So there are totally division, categorization of the rules. So we are dealing first with 29. So chapter 4 consists of general safety precautionary measures, and chapter 5 deals between the rules 47 to 59, and rules 62 to 62 under chapter 6. So for chapter 5, actually this is under the IE precautionary rules, that is chapter 4, and chapter 5 under the related to the supply and use of energy, and 60 to 62 deals with electrical supply line system and apparatus for low and medium voltages. So we are studying up to 77, so that deals with overhead lines, and 63 to 73 from electric supply system and apparatus for high and extra high voltages. So totally uh, the rules that are expected you to be familiar under VTU consideration is, I shall brief it over here. um, so the rule number 29. So the IE rules which are specified for under VTU is the rules, that is rule number 29, rule number 30, 45, 46, 47, 50, 51, 54, 55, 77 and 79. So totally there are 11 rules that you have to be familiar with for the VTU. Let's check what IE rules talks about. So the IE rule 29 talks about the construction, installation, protection, operation and maintenance of electrical supply lines and apparatus. So mainly it describes that the size and the size of the apparatus or which carries the electrical supply should have sufficient mechanical strength for the work that is required to do, and it should be practicable also with ISI standards, so that to prevent the danger. So it should be so that it can ensure safety in all means. The rule 30 talks about the customer, that the insulation whichever is there under his control in his premises, he should ensure that the wires, fitting, apparatus, which all is belonging to him, should under his control, should be in safe condition in all respects. So the second point is the service lines which is given by the which is placed by the supplier in the consumer premises, if it is under UG, that is underground, in an ordinary condition also, be it in mechanical way, chemical way, or or against electrical way also, it should be properly insulated. And it also says that at any circumstances, it should be all the apparatus of the consumer should be under the premises belonging to the supplier should be in all safe condition. This is rule 30. Rule 45 talks about the electrical contractor, electrical workman, and the supplier. So here also it is talking about the safety, the wherein if a workman or a supplier, when he supplies it to the consumer, the electrical installation works, any alterations, repairs, replacement of the existing installation other than the fuses, switches and fans, anything other than these, if he has to alter its capacity or the character, then he has to do it under the supervision of the state government licensed person only. Otherwise, it is against the rule. So, any electrical installation should be connected with the works of any supplier who has got a license from the official gazette appointed only. This is what rule 45 says. Coming to 46, it should have a periodical inspection and testing. Whatever the supplier, when it is directed by the central or the state government, he should have to pay a fee which is determined by the central or the state government. If in case any consumer, if he in case of any failure of any consumer paying the fees, then the consumer will be liable to disconnect under the direction of the inspector. So the periodical inspection provision is what is spoken in the rule 46. Coming to 47, he will be testing the consumer installation. That is, once the application is received, then the supplier has to maintain that record which is obtained from the consumer, and in case of inspection, the supplier, if when he is satisfied, then he is likely that he will have to serve on the applicant a notice, a written requiring that modifications will be done, and under the installation is all in safe condition. And this is related to the supply and use of the energy. So the consumer's installation will be tested by the inspector. Coming to rule number 50, it is related to the supply and use of energy. So a supplier, he should not commence unless it is suitable link switch is connected through a circuit breaker so that under rule 58, so that uh, the requisite capacity to carry, make and break the full load current is properly inserted. Otherwise, every possibility that the full load current or the linked switch which is connected from the primary side of the transformer, maybe it should be has to carry the full load current, and so that there will be sufficient protection and also against excess energy, and also that supply of the energy to any of the motor, it is controlled using a switch or a circuit breaker, and there is adequate precautions so that no live parts are exposed. If there is any emergency, then the switch can be switched off using the circuit breaker or using the linked switch. Then there is this is only to ensure that every consumer has to maintain at all times at reasonable means that energy supplied by the supplier, we should not interfere with the service lines. So this is rule 50. 51 talks about the medium, high and extra high voltage installation. So it is only to ensure that all conductors, it is strong enough by, and it is when it is accessible by any authorized person, if even when it is inspected, it should prevent the any danger caused when a consumer is using the apparatus. And all the metal works, when it is supporting or enclosing the installation, it should be that it should is complying with all the rules, all the provisions that is required. For example, 3 feet of width in front of the switchboard, and behind the switchboard around 22.9 centimeters from the attachment or to the conductor, and the space behind the switchboard also should be of around 30 inches, and there should be some passages around the switchboard. All these conditions should be provisionable for either for medium, high or extra high voltage installations. And when a supplier he proposes to supply the energy at medium, he has to or if in case he wants to recommence the supply, and there was a discontinuity for 6 months, so he has to give a notice period with such intention to the inspector, so that he can he get his energy resumed for his work. Coming to the 54th, what is the declared voltage of the supply to the consumer? Even though we all know that the operating frequency is 50 Hz, the commencement under the state government from the supplier, so it should be such that in case there is a variation of the supply, then it can be only 5% for low or medium, and for 12.5% in case of high or extra high voltages. This is the declared voltage. Coming to 55, it talks about the supply frequency, wherein the supply frequency, which is 50, cannot be altered. If in case there is variation, it cannot be more than 3% of the fixed value by the state government. And last two talks about the clearance between the conductors. The 75th rule and the 77th rule talks about talks about the clearance above the ground and the lowest conductor from the ground, above the ground. So for low voltages on medium voltages 5.8 meters, and for high voltages it is 6.1 meters. And overhead lines including service lines of low and medium voltages, the minimum clearance should be 5.5 meters or 5.5 meters or 18 feet, and 5.8 meters for high voltages. And 79 talks about the clearance from the building of low and medium voltage lines and service lines. That is, the minimum height from the rooftop for a shallow roof, for any flat roof, the lean to roof, the vertical clearance should be around 2.5 meters from the highest point, and from horizontal it should be 1.2 meters. And if in case it is a pitched roof, then it should be vertical clearance should be 2.5 meters vertical and 1.2 meters horizontal. And the it should be properly insulated such that the wire having a breaking strength of not less than 350 kg should be provided. Even it should not deviate due to the wind pressure. I hope you people could understand this. Thank you so much for watching this. um, um, and